Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 Prakim Rambam. We are starting with the final 2 chapters of Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, chapters Yud-Ches and Yud-Tes, chapters 18 and 19. And then, God willing, we're going to move on to Hilchos Tainiyos, learning its first chapter. Now, up until now, and specifically in chapter 17, we were learning about all of the various factors, right, that might affect the visibility of the moon. Chapter 17 covered all the astronomical factors. So up until now, where are we at? We are at a knowledge of how does the heavenly bodies move, both the sun and the moon, both the emtsoi, and the goal is to know their amiti. And now you know whether the moon, for astronomical factors, is seeable or not. And as we explained, if Beis Din knows that the moon is not big enough for it to be seen astronomically, even if 2 witnesses come, they know that what they saw was their imagination. They saw clouds. Okay. Chapter 18 is going to add to other factors, which will also affect the visibility of the moon, but these are much simpler factors. Now we're going to be learning about the atmospheric and geographical factors. I'm just giving you a mashal. Even if all of the astronomical factors are in place and the moon is seeable, the moon should be seen. What happens if it's cloudy? That's what I mean by atmospheric. If it's cloudy, no one is going to see the moon. And by the way, the Rambam is going to address in this chapter a bomb question. I have a simple question, Chevra. Let's say we're saying the cycle of the moon is 29 days and a half a day and 793 halakim. Okay. What happens if there's a moilad? The moon should have been seen, but it was cloudy. It was cloudy, it happens. So this month, instead of making day 30 into day 1, no one saw the moon. It was cloudy. So they did it the next day. What happens if this happens a few months in a row? Not that it's cloudy for a few months in a row. That's very rare. No, but it could be that punct every Rosh Chodesh, it gets cloudy. You know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen if you keep on making months longer and months longer and months longer. The new moon is going to appear on day 25 of the month. There's no greater joke. It's like it makes a mockery of the whole calendar. This will be addressed amongst other things in this chapter. Perek Shmoina Asar has 16 halachas, and let's begin with halacha al. Davar Yodua Ubar. It's well known. It's obvious. Says the Rambam. That even if, as we mentioned, even if all the astronomical factors are in place, and therefore the moon should have been seen, nevertheless, there are other factors that will affect its visibility. For example, clouds, such a simple factor. Another reason. You happen to be living in a place that's a valley. Now let's not forget, Chevra, that the moon is available only low on the horizon. By the new moon. Low on the horizon means that if you are on top of a mountain, you have a tremendous advantage. But if the moon only appears low on the horizon and you're living in a deep valley, for you, because you are in the valley, you cannot see it anymore. That's called a geographical factor. Or you're not living in a valley, but there is a natural obstruction to the horizon. There's a big mountain between you and the horizon. So even the moon should have appeared a couple of degrees up above the horizon, but there's something obstructing it. If there's a mountain between you and the horizon, it's as if you're living in a valley. Even if the moon is relatively big. On the other hand, it will be seen if someone is standing on top of a high and a lofty mountain, even though the moon is very small. In other words, there are geographical factors that we never spoke about. Sometimes the moon is just big enough that it could be seen, and it will be seen. If someone is living at the seashore, right? Because when you live by the seashore, there's nothing between you and there's nothing obstructing the horizon. It's just the sea. or if someone is actually in a ship on the sea, even if the moon is very small. Furthermore, let me give you another atmospheric factor. This we know over here in Los Angeles. Sometimes there's smog. Sometimes you cannot even see to the Hollywood Hills. In other words, the moon should have been seen, but because of the dust in the air, imagine this is not before the pollution that we have now, they didn't see it. And Bachlal, summer, winter, generally when it rains, the rain pushes down all of the dirt in the air. So it becomes clearer. It's possible that if the day will be very clear, then yes, because then and the heavens, they look more brilliant, as we know, right? The blue of the sky is like, wow. Because there's no dust. Even if all of the astronomical factors are the same, but you won't see the moon because of this atmospheric factor. It's going to look like it's a smoky air. And if the moon is only very small, you won't see it because of that reason. Now, let's go at whenever the arc of the sighting and together with the first longitude, as we learned in the previous chapter, are going to be very short. Both of them have an effect at what? That that the crescent will be very small. When that happens, so even though we learned it's shaykh for you to see it, but it depends where you are. Shaykh for you to see it, not if you're in the valley. You understand? In other words, if there are several degrees added beyond the minimum amount needed, if the moon is relatively bigger, then the moon will be a larger moon. So Bezdin, after knowing all of the parakim, particularly Perek Yud Zayin, you're not done yet. Because now you have to add atmospheric and geographical factors. It's very simple. Halacha dal. They have to know Zman Hariya Umakayma. Why are they asking the geographical factors? Like the Bezdin asks Yakir, the Edom, where did you see it from? We never had that question before. Because even though if everything we learned in the previous chapter leads us to the conclusion that de facto the moon is seeable, but if the moon is seeable barely, and Bezdin is finding out that this guy lives in a valley, and it was during a musty season, it wasn't rain, then we also know they're not saying the truth. And the Yitan HaCheshbon that we learned, particularly in the last chapter, only but Simtzum, they're going to Teisha Milas V'Chamishim Chalokim. And as we learned, guys, in the previous chapter. So you can barely see it. Hold on, doesn't mean Bezdin is going to believe them that quick. Why? Because or if they saw it from a Makim Namoch, okay, we're not saying that they're liars, but we're saying that Bezdin is suspecting them to be not to be saying the truth. And whenever you suspect Adam, you interrogate them more. On the other hand, we already know that the Kesher Sara'iyah, right, when it is 9 degrees and the first longitude is 13 degrees, we know that the moon, by per se, or let's go, if you're looking only at the astronomical factors, the moon is very seeable. On top of that, they're standing in a very advantageous place, and the air is clear. Vada Yera, with one other factor, as long as it's not cloudy. Im lo yesham avam amavdilim. Halacha hey edem shiro was a chodesh bismane. Ubo veheidu and v'kiblum Bezdin v'kitch was a chodesh as arishain. We spoke this out on the intro. This is going to be a very big question that we have to address. So let's say they got it right this month. They saw the moon the night going into the 30th because the Moilad already happened. Enough time passed since the Moilad for the moon to be seeable, and it was seen, which means day 30 will become day number 1, which means Bezdin knows, based on the Re'iyah and based on the Cheshbon, that in 29 and a half days will be another Rosh Chodesh. Umanu tishim yoim min yom hamakodesh. V'leil shloishim lo ni'areya. And the moon was not seen in the next month, either because either because the astronomical factors were not there. In other words, it wasn't enough time, or there was enough time, but you had this atmospheric factor. Shekisoha oven. So what did we learn? We learned, okay, Bezin is not like Kaddish. Day 30 remains day 30. They make this su'udah, bad meshef, to be mafarsim that day 31 became one. So far, so good. So the Ibra was HaChodesh. The Nimtzu Yom Rosh HaChodesh Hasheni is only on day 31. Now, guys, let me tell you something. When Rosh Chodesh was not on day 30, Yakir, listen, and day 31 becomes day number 1, for astronomical factors, next month, the moon should be seeable the night going into the 30th. Because you started Rosh Chodesh late. You started Rosh Chodesh way after the Moilad. For sure, by the next month, that's why Taka nowadays, generally, one day 29, one day 30, one day 29, one day 30. Well, but now, and really now, for astronomical factors, the moon should have been seen. But what happened? It was full cloudy. It was cloudy. Now what? So you're going to say, okay, Bezin has to be Mekadosh al Pi Ariyah, so they have to declare only Yom Lamadal of Rosh Chodesh. And what's going to happen next month, Yakir? If Punk by Rosh Chodesh it's cloudy, and if it happens for 4 or 5 months, again, you make this month again 30 days because no one saw it. No one saw it, not because of astronomical factors. No, the moon should have been seen. No one saw it because of the atmospheric factors. The Rosh Chodesh Hashlishi, you're going to have a couple of months in a row. You're going to have Chodesh Mu'ubar. It's possible it's going to happen again. You know what's going to happen at the end? At the end, when it won't be cloudy, you know when the new one is going to appear? Yeah, the 25th or the 26th. And the Rambam says, there's nothing more ludicrous. It makes a mockery of the whole system. How can such a thing, how can we have a system that is vulnerable for this to happen? Bomb question. Before the Eitzah, the Rambam wants to tell you, don't make my question little. Sometimes people say it's something so rare. We're not done before the Eitzah. Allah Chazayin. Va'al toimer. No, the Rambam says it's possible. It's very likely. Very likely. The Rambam is saying that we're not saying that there are places in the world where it's going to be cloudy for 5 months. This problem is not if it's cloudy for 5 months. This is a problem if it's always cloudy on Rosh Chodesh. That can happen. It can repeat itself. To say that you'll live in a place, there'll be a time in Yerushalayim and HaKodesh, or the place of the Sanhedrin, that you won't have, that there'll be cloudy for many months straight. That is very unlikely. But the problem won't be caused only because it's cloudy straight. No. That can happen. Every Rosh Chodesh, it can be cloudy. Then later you'll see it during the rest of the month. And then, listen, sometimes, Taka, you won't be able to see it because of astronomical factors. The months that you could see it, it's likely that you won't see it because of the clouds. Another likelihood, it's not always cloudy. Like we just gave the example. When you have the minimum size of the moon that can be seen, the arc of the sighting is the smallest. Everything is the smallest. And it happens to be, Yakir, summer. Summer meaning that the air is very dusty. That's a factor why you won't see it. These things can happen. 1 month it was cloudy. 1 month astronomically it can't be seen. 1 month the air was very this. Yeah, the bottom line is it's very likely that a few months in a row, Adam will not come. So that's the kasha. And you're making a mockery out of our whole system. Answers that the answer was something that we heard. Ish mipnei Moshe Rabbeinu kachi. Shabazman shelo yira hayerech b'tchilas hachadash b'chodesh achar chodesh. Even when we are Mekadosh al Piyadiyah, Beis Din is obligated to know the cheshbon. The cheshbon that we just learned, guys, in the past couple of chapters. So Beis Din knows what's really happening. If they see that we're getting off, they're mechuyev to make a month short. They have to rectify. They don't wait until the Re'iyah. Even Bisman that you're Mekadosh al Piyadiyah, they needed to know the cheshbon, and when they see this is going into place, they stop it by declaring a month, Rosh Chodesh, on Yom Lamed, without Re'iyah. Based in Koivin, Chodesh Mu'umar, Mishloshim Yom, Chodesh Chasem, Tisha B'Sem Yom. If it's cloudy month after month after month after month, you know what they did then? What we're doing now. What are we doing now? We're being Mekadosh al Pi Cheshbon. What did the Rambam explain? What's the Cheshbon? Aside of Cheshbon and Kislev, right? The 2 months. You have Tishrei is Malay, and Tevis is Chassid, and Shvat is Malay, and Oider is Chassid, and he said, they do that. But there's one thing, Yaakov. If you remember, we learned before that when you're Mekadosh al Piyadiyah, whenever you're making Yom Shloshim, Yom Aleph, there was a ceremony in which the Av Bezin would say Mekudesh, and everyone would say Mekudesh, Mekudesh. That was not done if there was no witnesses. The verbal sanctification of the month is not going to be done. Because how do they do it? Without that formality. They announce that today is Rosh Chodesh. They don't use the words Mekudesh. Do they make a meal? I don't think so. They're mefarsim it. Maybe they do make the meal. I don't know what to do with that meal. The meal that we learned that they make whenever it's a Chodesh Ivur. And by the way, sometimes they have to correct it. You know how they correct it? By making 2 months in a row Mali, 2 months in a row Chaser. It's when they see that the Re'iyah got too far off, they correct it without Eidim. Now we have another nuance. In other words, up until now, we kept on saying, why does Beis Din have to learn this astronomy? Why? Be Mekadosh, let Eidim come and be Mekadosh it. So we answered until now. Beis Din has to know whether it's seeable, to know whether the Eidim are saying they have to know. They already have to know how was it facing. Say, now we're learning another nuance. They have to know the cheshbon. They have to know the cheshbon because since aside of astronomical factors, you have atmospheric factors, you have geographical factors, you have to make sure that it doesn't go off the trails too much. Beautiful. That was such an important halacha. Halacha test. It means something else, guys. When they're Mekadosh the Chodesh this month, they already have to see what will happen next month. In other words, when they do something in the present, they have to take the future into account. We learned that also above when we were learning about when we established the calendar al pi cheshbon, and that I think it was Perek Vav, Lo Yadu Roish. The Rambam gave the 4 klalim. One klal is since we can't have a year smaller than a certain number, bigger than a different number, sometimes we're going to modify Rosh Hashanah this year in the fixed calendar, because if they'll make it today and today, the next year, they won't be able to do it on the day of the Moilad of Tishrei because it's going to be after midday. They can't delay it 1 day because it's going to be Aleph Dalot Vav. So they would have to delay it 2 days. If they're going to delay it 2 days, then from now until then, it's going to be more than the longest time. Can't have a year more than a certain number. Can't have a year more than 2. You can't have a year 356. Ashana Pshut, you can't have that. No, there are certain things that we do now because of the future. That's halacha tes. They have to know now, if we make today Rosh Chodesh Akir, when will it be seen? Will it Yerah Bismanoi or Belei Burai? We have to make sure that when we declare the Chodesh today, it should not be Shayach, that it should be seen on day 28. Because if today won't be Rosh Chodesh, guys, only tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh, then it's going to be possible for the moon to be seen the night going into the Shmoyna V'Esrim. If that were to happen, then they will never be allowed to make Rosh Chodesh tomorrow. They would have to make Rosh Chodesh earlier, even though there's no Re'iyah.
Rabbi, they have the calculations. If the witness don't come forward, why not just declare Rosh Chodesh?
That's exactly what the Rambam is saying. They normally would have a month to play around with. In other words, if 1 month the Eidim didn't come, 1 month they did it because it was cloudy. Even though they knew that really the moon should have been seeable, they can afford to still follow the normal system, which is witnesses didn't come. So tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. But they can only do that halacha test if they make tomorrow Rosh Chodesh. The moon should not be able to be seen the night of the 28th. That they cannot allow. Okay. Now the Rambam gives a big cloud. Beis Din will never, ever have a year that will have in it less than 4 30-day months, and they'll never have a year that has more than 8 months that I'm Uber. And you see, in other words, they have the right to artificially manipulate it based on the cheshbon, even bisman that the mekadosh al pi ha're'iyah. The gamle ibur chadashim elu shema abim lefi cheshbon. The ibur that they make al pi cheshbon, they're delaying it because it has to work for the future. They make a su'uda. Ibur hachodesh that we said in Perek Shlishi, not when they make it on day 30, when they make it on day 31. Okay, now halacha yud. Kol shetimsa b'talmud midvarim shemarim, that it's, you understand, underlying the whatever the Gemara is relating. Shebeis din somchen ala cheshbon, not on the iyah, not on the iyah. Mipi Moshe misinai shehadavar masul lahem v'harashus b'yodam lachasir la'aber. Now you understand where it comes from. Or and v'chein zeh, we remember by Gemara Erechin Daftes shechis Rebbe tisha chadashim b'shana. Now you understand why this happened. This was bisman that you're makadosh al pi ha're'iyah, and it's mashma that they were following the cheshbon. That's to avoid what we're saying right now. They needed to intervene in the re'iyah and only do it based on the cheshbon to make sure that no one is going to see the new moon b'leila chav ches, or God forbid earlier. No, they know this man. The moon is not seen. 1 month after 1 month after 1 month, you got a problem. And the solution is to do it al pi cheshbon. Halacha yudal. This guy wasn't paid a gimel halacha zayin. This was a very interesting case. Remember, no one came, guys. No one came, so they made Rosh Chodesh b'yoyim Lamed Aleph. Then 8 days later, Eidim came. Are we ma'ayim the Eidim? Are we not ma'ayim the Eidim? That whole din, whether it's before Yom Tov, then you follow the Eidim. If it's not before Yom Tov, we would prefer to confuse them. The machloikas of different opinions. Hu b'chadashim elu shema abram oisam lefi cheshbon v'oisam echad nem oil v'echad chaser yesh lahem la'abr chodesh achar chodesh ala chaser v'zeh hu shema abram l'tzoyrech b'pnei shelo nir ha'reich b'zmanav aval be'esh sheyiro ha'reich b'zmanav. The Rambam is adding something very important. When the moon was taka seen, in other words, if we know from the cheshbon that the moon is taka seeable, then even though when the moon was not seen yet at that month, they declared Yom Lamed Aleph Rosh Chodesh, the Rambam says we will not be ma'ayim the Eidim. In other words, we have to always remember that even though you have to have Eidim seeing it, the Rosh Chodesh declaration based on the Re'iyah cannot get too far away from the reality. Because if it's going to get too far away from the reality, understand what's going to happen. Then next month it might be cloudy. Then it's weiter going to get off the reality. And then the whole thing will be off. Halacha Yud Beis. Chalad Dvarim Ha'elu. Bisman sheyesham Beis Din b'shem chanal re'iyah. Aval bismanam elu pri Mashiach. Ein soim chanal al kaviyah b'zeh ha'cheshben ho'em tzoy ha'pashim fi kol Yisrael. Kamosh b'halachas elu, chapters 6, 7, and 8. And for that, it's so much simpler. So the Rambam already gave an intro to chapter, I think by Yud Aleph, that Rambam says that learning about the real cheshbon is that Rambam says there's a mystical reason. Whoever is connected to the Moyach HaChachma will have a taiva to learn this, he says. It's not just to learn it, to know the cheshbonos. There's something about this limud that fulfills a desire. I want you to know that the Rebbe, this is deep things, when people had physical taivas that were not healthy, not kosher, and the general rule is to learn Torah, the Torah will balance it. It's these parts of Torah because it touches a very deep desire. This is the ultimate, you channel the desire in the right place. There's something about this. I'm telling you, whoever learns this, there's a certain percent of people that they're so attracted to this that you can't describe. And they can spend a year learning this.
Why is it the moon? Don't we compare the moon to women?
Yes, we already spoke it out. That shemesh yadam avoya. In other words, the sun you can predict. There's the goyva hashemesh. There's only 2 galgalim. The moon has 4 galgalim, and it's not stam. One going this way, one going that way, one going around the earth, one going galgal cotton. That no one understands the movement of the moon. Someone has to write a book, a psychological book based on this, to explain the difference between men and women. Not lahavdol, men is from Mars and women are from Venus. No, that men are from the Galgal Hashemesh, and to show how we are high and we go low, but it's relatively predictable.
Simple.
You can manage it. And the moon, you don't know what hit you. You don't push it. You don't understand. Is it going quick? Is it going slow? It's going quick and it's going slow. It's crazy. Halacha Yud Gimel. Not crazy. It's mysterious. It's mysterious. Okay. Halacha Yud Gimel. Yisboer Besifrei Cheshbon of Kufais and Gematriyos. Another rule to remember. She'im Yeroy Yerech Beretz Yisrael. If the new moon will be seen in the Holy Land, Yeroah B'chol Medina So'ilam Shehem Lamayda Beretz Yisrael. Every country in the world that's west of Eretz Yisrael, as long as, this is important, it has the same latitude. In other words, it can be much higher or lower. As long as it's on the same line, you'll see why is that, guys. As you move westward, remember to these words, guys, the sun for you will set earlier. The earlier the sun sets, the more time you have for the moon to be seen. Because from that perspective, from that amiti, there wasn't enough time for the moon to appear. But like we says, the more you go westward, the earlier the sun sets, you gain more time for the moon to be seen. It's still possible. And therefore, let's go like this. You live there, you can't say, if I see it, they saw it there. No. But in the reverse, if you're living on top of a mountain, and we began this chapter by explaining how geographically that's advantageous, and you're living to the Maidav, and as long as you are in the same latitude, and you did not see the new moon, then biyodua shulenida beretz Yisrael. That's very helpful to a certain degree. Now, nowadays we're mekadosh al pi cheshbon, but we're mekadosh al pi hariyah, and you want to guess, were they mekadosh al pi hariyah? Well, if I did not see it, place in Greece or whichever place that's west, same latitude, then they for sure no one saw it. Halacha tezvav. If it was not seen in the Holy Land, biyadua, that it was not seen in all of the areas lemizrach Eretz Yisrael that are mechuvanos kenegdo, because they have even a smaller time, a smaller window. And if it was seen in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't mean it was seen there. The other way. If you live b'Mizrach, you live in Iran, and you see the new moon, then for sure they saw it in Eretz Yisrael. But the Imlo Yerob Medina Samizrachis and B'Zaraya. After Sheirov Eretz Yisrael, it's still possible that it was seen. Now, what's the point of this final din? What's the point? The final halach of this chapter, halacha tezayin v'chol elu advarim. First of all of the above is only if you are in the same latitude. You're going Now, Mechavanis, we already spoke this out. I think it was at the end of chapter 11. It doesn't have to be mamish on the same line of latitude, but it has to be within a certain degrees, which will not make a difference. From 30 miles until 35. You know what? I think that we learned in Yud Aleph 31. Let me go take a look over there. Let me go back to Perek Yud Aleph. That will be a kasha. No. The Rambam writes there, Teisha v'Esrim. At Chomesh U'Shloshim at Teisha v'Esrim. And here you have, okay, Nishkaferl. Aval Amo Yonoitzes Lat Sofin Yoisim is El Pacha, is the Mishpat HaMacherim Yesh Lehem. Sharei Eina Muchvanas Keneged Eretz Yisrael. Now, why do we have to know this? Says the Rambam. Listen to this. Udvarim Elu Shebiyarnu Ba'arei Mizrach U'Ma'ariv. This final din, that if the furthermore west you go, Yakir, that means the earlier the sun sets, which means that the moon will be even more seeable. Einam elo lahagit kol mishvati areio lahagil toido ladira. It's just for you to have all the information to make the Torah, because you know why it's not relevant in Maisa. You know why it's not relevant? Why would it be relevant? You only make Kaddish in Eretz Yisrael. They don't rely on their own seeing. And more than that, now that we learned that sometimes to correct, they're going to be Mekadosh the Chodesh without the formality, even if the moon was not seen. No, it's not that if I saw it, they saw it, they'll be Mekadosh. You have to know that they were Mekadosh it. Nor was then, Lahagul Toido Ladir. Now we're learning, Chavra, the final chapter of Kiddush HaChodesh. There's something that we spoke out many times, and we're going to focus on it with an illustration right now. Perek Tisha Asar has 16 halachas, and we're going to speak about the inclination of the mazalois, subsequently the inclination of the sun that's traveling under the Galgal HaMazalois, subsequently the inclination of the moon that's also traveling generally under that inclination as well. So here will be the big prop over here. So all I would like to show for people who can see this is that you have the equator. The equator, the snapstick fell apart. The equator is where the ball is opening up. In other words, my right hand is, just to know, is in the south. My hand is, the other side is in the north. So the equator is the middle. The Galgal Hayomi is moving this way. The Galgal Hayomi is actually moving from east to west. We said the sun is moving from, the Galgal Hayomi is moving from east to west. In this room, Yakir, east to west is this way. But the sun itself is moving from west to east. It's moving 1 degree a day under the Galgal HaMazolos. The black is the equator of the Galgal HaMazolos. Not here, to the side, inclined. Inclined means that for 180 degrees, it's to the south of the equator. For the next 180 degrees, it's going, you see here, to the north of the equator. Like when we spoke about that, the sun, on the Tkufa, the vernal equinox, the sun is under here. Under here means it's under, Kaleb begins where Ataka meets the equator of the world, or it meets the equator of the Galgal Hayomi. But when it's traveling 1 degree. But since the inclination of the Mazolos is going now towards the north, going to the north, until it goes to 23.5 degrees. That's the Tadic right now. Then it starts to turn back. Solstice is when it's the farthest away from the equator. I think it was Sarton. Not I think, it's Sarton that begins coming. Then it goes until Moznayim. Then by Moznayim you have the autonomous equinox, and now it's going into the south. Goes until Gedi. Gedi is the furthest to the south, 23.5 degrees. Now, the Rambam is not going to be speaking about the sun here. The Rambam is going to be speaking about the moon here. And we'll see why the Rambam is writing about all this. Halacha al. Masnaim is when it goes over from north to south. And Telez when it goes from south to north. Halacha aleph. Amru chachamim. I think my little globe is easier than this picture, but it's good. From the many questions that the Edom are asked, they are asked, In which direction was the crescent of the moon inclined? I want to speak about that. Guys, halt cup. When we speak about the crescent of the moon, Yakir, the part of the moon that's facing the sun is the part that's enlightened. If the moon looks like this, you know where the sun is? Has to be here. Has to be here. That's why if the sun would be here, it would be like this. If the sun would be here, it would be like this. Because it can't, because it's shining there. Now, is the moon to the north or the south? That was Perek Tezayin. That was the Galgal HaKatan that has a diameter of 10 degrees, 5 to one side, 5 to the other side. You have to know where the sun is, relative where the moon is. You have the Rosh, you have the Zanav. All of those issues we'll have to take into account right now. Kosher be'ein aloy di'acha derech cheshbon davar zeh. And ve'ein ani medagdeg boy. Nothing of this knowledge, nothing of what we're going to be learning right now will result whether you'll see the moon or not. What will it result, Yakir? It will result to what direction is the crescent of the moon facing. But that's one of the questions that they asked. So let's go. First thing you have to know is to chap netias hamazolis chilam. That we're saying this is something that you have to see. When you see it, you see it. In other words, if you don't see the incline of the mazolis, you won't get anything. The irony is that everything is moving from east to west. Everything is moving. Look at Yakir. Everything is moving. That means everything is, it's amazing. Now, however, the mazolos, the band, guys, the Galgal Hashmini, in which you project the Galgal Hashmini is everything. But the band of the mazolos, the pictures appeared on the black line. Okay. Says the Rambam, halacha beis. Agula, this is the equator. She averes b'machzas hamazolos. That's in the middle of the mazolos. Under which the sun is traveling is not over the equator of the world. What's the equator? The place in the world that's exactly Chatzi Mizrach Lachatzi Maidov. Elon. Noitihim alakav ashove hamasava be'emso elam connected tzavim v'daroim. Chetzi noit l'tzavim v'chetzi noit l'daroim. Halachi gimel ushnei nekudas yesh ba. Now, when you have an equator over here, but you have an incline which is off, but it's going around. It's not linear. It's not getting far away. It's getting away. It's getting closer. There's going to be 2 points where it's going to meet, which is what we call the equinox. We said Mazel Tleh and Mazel Masnayim. They have to meet. The Nekuda Achas will be Rosh Mazel Tleh, what the Goyim call the vernal equinox, right? When the sun is going out of the south, going into the north, but it passes over the equator. Nekuda Shniya, Shekenegda, which is 180 degrees away, Rosh Mazel Masnayim is the autumnal equinox, going now away from summer, going into winter. Another detail, guys, it's only summer, winter, like you have over here, guys. My right hand is the south. My right hand is the south. My Oibazoyakir. Now you understand why is it that south of the equator, summer is the other side of the year? Because even though we spoke about the Goiva Hashemesh, and the Goiva Hashemesh makes the sun really go much higher, much lower, the height of the sun, the lowness of the sun has very little effect on the temperature. What has a lot of effect on the temperature is the sun. If I live in the north and the sun is in the north, and now the sun is only moving 1 degree a day, even though it looks like it's moving around the whole time, then the north will be much hotter. During the 6 months of the year between Masnayim and Teleh, where the sun is under the 180 in the south, whoever lives in the north will be colder for them. Well, okay. Nimtzu shisha mazolis noitzes letzofin mitchilas levat seif besula. Seif besula is right before Masnayim. V'shisha noitzes ledodim mitchilas mazel zeh seif mazel dod. Halachadal. Rosh mazel teleh. So that's step number 1. We're looking to know which direction is the crescent of the moon? See this in your head. Halacha dal. Rosh mazal telem. Yaschila mazonas litis ma'at lisrachek malakav ashavik keneged sofan rosh asart. So we said the farthest most it goes, guys, it's a circle, is only 90 degrees. It's half is 180. Half, this is sofan to sof, 180. But from this 180, how far does it get from the middle when it's 90 degrees into it? Because after 90 degrees, it begins going back towards the equator. What's the half? You asked that question. Rosh Mazel Sarton. Yeah, Rosh Sarton, which is called the summer solstice. The word solstice means it stops. It stops going further north. How far is it from the equator? Around Yakir 23 and a half. It's not exact. We don't need the exact for these cheshbonos. That's the farthest one. And now and now it's beginning to go back to the autumnal equinox through Kavashava. Similarly, when it goes to the 180 from the other direction, what's the farthermost it goes? What's the winter solstice? Rosh Gedi. And the year Rosh Gedi, Rachik Malakava Shavel Ruach Dorim, again, 23 and a half. Sholosh Esr Mans Chatzi Milo. And now V'yachzor HaMazolos Liskat of Ma'at Ma'at Keneged Tzad HaShava Ad Rosh Toleh. Halacha hey. Now the Rambam wants to make the following point. We know we already spoke about the speed of the sun. But I want to know if we're going to make the trip of 180 miles, which we will, into 10 degrees increments. After it travels 10 degrees, how many degrees is it away, either to the north or to the south from the equator? We'll see that the numbers don't follow a consistent pattern. It's not that for every 10 degrees, it moves exactly an amount. It's not that way. So we have to give in 10 degrees increments, how far off did it go? Halacha hey. Nimsa, Rosh Telev, Rosh Maznayim, Misav Alakav Hashav. And therefore, during that time of the year, Lefikach Kishti Hashem B'Shnei Roshim Elu, Loitia Noita Loila Sefer Loila Dorim. And that's, by the way, the word equinox means equal. Equal means then, Taka, the day and the night will be equal. Not only equal in halacha, like we mentioned, that a yom is made out of 24 hours, 12 day, 12 night, it's going to be in Olam Haza Hagashmi, 12 and 12. V'tizrach machatzi mizrach v'tishka machatzi mayro. Where will it set? This is not about the time. Guys, when you're driving down Pico, for people that live in Los Angeles, and you're taking your kids to Cheder, you'll realize the sun is not always coming up in front of you. Sometimes the sun is coming up, that's my south. Sometimes it's coming up to the north. Of course, during summer, the sun is in the north. So when it sets, understand, it's also setting, making a sivuv, setting in the north. Now, if it has to go north-north, derech darim, it always goes derech darim, it goes a little bit to the south, it takes much longer. It's a longer day. If it's going up winter more to the south, and it's going down to the south, then weiter, it's going to be much shorter. During the equinoxes, it's going to go in the middle of Mizrach, and it's going to go down the middle of Maidav. And therefore, there's a specific measure of their inclination. How much does it incline? And we're beginning always, as we always do, from the beginning of Mazel Telem. Now, Yakir, since the farthest is 23 and a half, look what's going to happen. When it goes the first 10 miles means, let's say this is Telem. It's the wrong direction. This is because it's going in this, it's going this way. It's going this way. Here it's Telem. So it's going towards the north. So when it goes 10 miles, we want to know how many degrees did it go off the equator. That's the question. It's not the first 10 and the next 10 and the next 10, and they won't always be the same. It will not always be the same. What will it be? So when it goes, Taka, the first 10 miles to the north, then it went away from the equator 4 degrees. But you see why we cannot repeat it the whole time. Because how many degrees are we going, Yakir, off until we hit 90? We're going 9. How much is 9 times 4? 36. And it doesn't go 36 degrees off the equator. It only goes 23 and a half. So the fact is, when it goes, Taka, the first 10 miles, it got away from the equator 4 degrees. The second 10, it repeats itself. So how much is 2 times 4? 8. But look how it begins to happen, Yakir. Once it goes the next 10, so now it's 30 miles. What would you think the number would be now? If every 10 to the north is 4 of the equator, what's 4 times 3? 12. It's not 12. The Tiyasim will only be Achas Esri Miles Umechza. Starts to diminish. In the next one, you're going to have now only sum total of 15. The 50 miles, now you're only adding 3. You're going from 15, Yakir, only to 18. When you go from this is Shisha miles, even less. What's less? 2, from 18 to 20. 70 miles, again, at least 2. Stein be'esre miles, Shmoina miles. Look at this, Yakir. Only one. Nitiyasam shalosh v'esre miles. Tishi miles. Nitiyasam shalosh v'esre miles v'chatzi mile only have. The Rambam doesn't have to say anything else. Because now what you do is, once you went until Sartan, that means you went 90 degrees. We went from here until 90 degrees. Now flip that on the other direction. The 10 after 90, only half. The next twice, 2. Then 3. And then you take that 180 and you put the same thing on the 180 of the other side. The Rambam doesn't have to say anymore. Halacha ches. Now, 1 second. We had this concept already before. The Rambam is only giving 10 degrees increments. What happens if I know the sun is not 10 degrees off, the sun is 13 degrees off? It's 13 days into Mazel Tov. No problem. Take the closest 10 and 10. If this is a unit where it goes 4, divide 4 by 10. You'll know how much every mile is. If it's in a 10 where you divide it only by 2, it only goes 2 degrees from the equator. No, let's take the 2 points that this is in between, take the number and divide it by that, and that's going to work. We already learned this. We already applied this many times. Kate said, well, guys, if the first 10 Yakim is 4, then half of 10 will be 2. The Tiyashim will be 9 miles. And again, the Rambam only went until 90 degrees. Why? We already spoke it up by heart. The Rambam doesn't have to do it again. Because the second 90 flips the first 90. And then the other side is this side. All you need to know, the Rambam says, I gave you all the numbers. Now, this we had a Perek design, Allah Yud Gimel. The way you do it is by Tigra Oisim Ameo Shmoinim. Tigra Oisim. Imo Yosam Ameo Shmoinim, An Mosayim Veshivim, Tigra Mimeno Ameo Shmoinim. Imo Yosam Amosam Shemal Shlosh Meo Veshishim, Tigra Oisim Shlosh Meo Veshishim. Guys, this I know we're running, but we had this already in Perek design, Allah Yud Gimel. We already had this. I think we had this twice already. Now, hold on. Why are we learning all this? What are we looking for, Yakid? We're looking to know in what direction is the crescent of the moon facing. That's what we're looking for. That's it. But first of all, you have to remember that the mazoles go off. The sun is going under the galgal of the mazolos, and the yoreach Be'erech is going under the galgal of the sun, but it's going north and south. Oh, halacha yud. Now, im tirtzalei de kama milos vayereach, noitam al kava shavar keneged seven oilam keneged oram oilam. Now I want to know where the moon is. Where the moon is vis-a-vis this black band of the mazolos. What do I need to do? Teida tchila kama netias hamayla. They have to go back to that. And when you're looking for the Makim Hayreach Hamiti, means how it appears to us, you have to know Le'ezer Orchi Noita, Idol, and Sofan Elodorim. And you have to now calculate the moon's first latitude. Guys, this is Pedek to Zion. This is the Rosh and the Zonaf. We're not going to repeat it now. And Vitira, if the Rosh or the Zonaf is now Tzfayni or the Roimi. Mamish, in other words, is it north or south of the sun? It's very simple. So you add one to the other. Then one has to be deducted off the other. For example, how far is it off the equator? In the night where Shanazu, guys, is Shnaso Iker. Where did the Rambam speak about Shnaso Iker? Pedik Yudal of Halacha Tezayin. Remember, Kvar Yodato, Shemayla Sayreya Choisa, Sha Esrim Emazal Shoir. And Nitiyose Batsofoin, Kemoy Shmoina Esri Milas. And also, so that's one cheshbon. But the Roich Vayreya Choy Badoroi, May Arba Milas. Oh, it's 18 to the Sofin, but it's 4 in the Dorim. You got that? So you have to deduct the 4 of the 18. So Tigram Atanarav, you short Arba Esri Milas, because you have to know where vis-a-vis the equator is the moon. The Nimsa Hayereach Rochik Ma'ala Kava Shaba Arba Esri Milas Ruach Tzofain. Shreming in Arab, Shushman Esri Milas right Sfining. Now the Rambam tells you it's taka not precise. It doesn't matter. No, we're not going big because this is not about whether you'll see it. We only need to know whether it is how many degrees to the north or to the south is the moon. Now, Halacha Yud Aleph, Halacha Yud Beis, thank you. Im tirtzalei del eizer ruach meruchas oilam. Yero hayereach noite. Tachshe v'teida merchokem el kav hashava, as we just explained. V'im yeh al hakav hashava yikorav imenu v'shtayim sholosh milas b'tzofen oy b'dorim. Where will you see the crescent? You know where you will see it? Just like we said, that during the equinox, the sun sets in middle. Not Litzofin, not the same thing with the moon. Now, when it's setting over there, think about it. Where will the crescent be facing? The smiley face, it's like an arrow almost. No, it's when the moon is setting, guys, when the moon is setting in middle, you know where the smiley face would be? The full will be towards Maidav. The Pagam will be where? Up. The horns will be facing Keneged Mizrach B'Shabbat. If it's going to be descending more Litzafain, so which means the full part Yakir, the full part will be Litzafain. So where will the Pegima be? Keneged Darim. The furthest more, then it's going to set more in that side. Of course, it's setting everything in the west, but it's going to be setting southwest, and therefore the pegima will be tzafay. The pegima, if it's setting in the darim, then the pegima will be keneged tzfayin. Now, how much will it be inclined? Depends. How far away off the equator? Gamaldi. The next thing is Kamoya Govoya. That's another thing. How high up in the horizon was it? Remember, the arc of the sighting is, let's go from the Moilad Be'erech, from the Moilad until when it's Shaykh to see, you need around 20 hours. But you need for that time to be by sunset. Because in the beginning of the month, B'chlal, when the sun is in the sky, since the moon, that's theoretically seeable, is so little, if there's the Oid HaShemesh, you're not going to see it. You understand? On the other hand, in the beginning of the month, the moon set is shortly after the sunset. So you have to have enough time for the sun to set. The Rambam spoke out way in the beginning. It's around 40 minutes, which is 20. And you have to have 20 minutes after sunset. Ooh, that's from when you can see the moon. Now, if the moilad happened, that this phenomena happened many hours later, not 20 hours later, a day and a half later, by then, the moon is already away from the sun more. And therefore, the Kesher Sara'iyah, after sunset, the moon is not going to be near the horizon. The moon is going to be higher up. There will be more time. Gewaldig. It's when the window of seeing the moon is closer to the Mailad. Let me, what did I say? Yekid is closer to the Mailad. In one day, the moon only goes away from the sun 12 degrees. 12 degrees is very little. You're seeing 180. You can only see it after sunset. And by the way, after sunset, until 20 minutes, there's still a lot of light in the sky. So you need sunset plus, where if you're seeing it close to the Mailad, the arc of the sighting will be very little. So when you'll see it mamish by the horizon. If you couldn't see it that night, if you only saw it the next night, then you're going to see it much higher up. The Rambam is explaining these two things, like which side is it facing? That was until Tezvav. The other kasha to the Eidim is high, how up. You have to know the kasha Sara'iyah. Well, if you oirech kasha Sara'iyah, if you go mal aretz, they say nayim. And the Rambam concludes, halachet hazayin harebi arnu cheshboinos kol aderachim shetzrichim lahem b'yediya Sara'iyah b'chakira Eidim. Not only did the Rambam tell you how to make a calendar that's simple, parakim vav zayin ches, the Rambam told you how to know whether the moon is going to be seen, to understand what was behind the questions that were asked to the Eidim. How will Beis Din already know the answer prior to them giving it, which is why you're asking it from them, to see if they're saying the emes. The Rambam wrote it down over here. We have a fixed calendar that there should not be any part of Torah that's not recorded in the Torah. In other words, for people not to need to venture forth to discover from the Chachma in any other source other than the Torah. And indeed, that's the meaning of the pasuk in Yeshayahu, that Dirshu me al Sefer Hashem Vikaro. And you don't have, and when you're gonna be doirish, when you're gonna seek everything from God's book, you should know that achas meheino loy nedara, not one thing will be missing. Hafach ba v'hafach ba dechoylova. B'rich Rachmana D'Sayim. Mazel tov. L'chaim. Okay, Chavre, now we are moving on to the laws of Tainiyos. So for the record, that this Shavuos night, we're going to go over all of these dinim. Perfect topic to learn 2 a.m. Okay, Hilchas Tainiyos says that Rambam, mitzvahs asay achas. There's one positive commandment. Vihi lehis anois, to fast, and v'lizoik, and to cry out, lifnei Hashem. Lifnei Hashem means before God, pi Chasidus, to touch a level that's higher than Shem Havaya. That means you're calling out from a deeper place within yourself. When? Whenever there is a great distress that affects the community, then you have a mitzvah to fast and to cry out to God. Ubir mitzvah zu will be beprakim elu, starting with the first chapter. The first chapter is all about the mitzvah of crying out. The Rambam is going to speak about the tainus tzibur. The Rambam is going to speak here about a tainus yachid, and the Rambam is even going to speak about what we call tainus sha'os. Halacha Aleph says the Rambam, mitzvah saseh min ha-Torah, there's a positive commandment from the Torah, lizoik, to cry out, ulahoria b'chatzotzris, and to blow with trumpets. I'll call tzara, that God forbid, shotave yalatzibur. Shenamar, as it says, Parshas Baha Aloischa, right, when Hashem commanded Moshe, Selocha shtei chatzitzurois, that what? Al tsar hatzoyrer eschem, and that's a very general statement. What should you do then? Lochem means communal, like God forbid, abatzoyres means a famine, or if there's a plague, or there's arba. This affects not one, this affects all. Two things. Number one, zaku aleim, and number two, v'horiyu. Halacha beis v'dover zeh medarchi atshuvahu. Now watch, b'sman shetovi tzara v'yizakol and v'yoriu. There's a mitzvah that will arouse people to do tshuva. Why will it arouse people to do tshuva? Because why are we crying out? We're crying out because we know that we have the power to change it. Why do we have the power to change it? It's not only because of our prayers. It's something deeper than that. That we link everything that's happening with our behavior. It doesn't mean, Chevra, that if something from our perspective that appears to be bad is happening, that's because that individual sinned. God forbid. Rabbi Yechanan lost 10 sons. It means that we have to be mafashvesh b'maisav. Let me look at my behavior. What's my part in it? Like the Gemara says, if a person taka concludes that I have no part in this, then yakabel ba'ahava, which is a big avodah. But maybe I do have a part in it. In other words, use it as an opportunity to make an introspection. And when people make an introspection, they'll do tshuva. Yedu akol shebechlal masem horoim hurolahem. As it says, avoinesechem hitu elam. Mamish, that pasuk in Yirmiyahu was speaking about that there weren't rains. So if it's not raining, what does the Yid say? You know why it's not raining? My sins. And when we do tshuva, if our misbehavior caused the tzara, then our tshuva will bring the salvation. What's the other alternative? Not to connect it to our behavior. To say, well, things happen. Things always happen. People will react to what tzara by saying, and listen, this is a natural phenomenon. It's not, there's no rain. It's a natural phenomenon. It's a chance occurrence. In other words, denying Hashgacha Pratis. Hashgacha Pratis connected to my behavior. Because you know what? Since I won't do tshuva, things will get even worse. It allows the person to cling on b'masei moroim, and that will vite it. That's it's going to add to tzaras. Who shekasav b'toira over there by the toichecha that v'halachtem imi bekeri. Now the word keri literally means if you will remain indifferent. That's the pshat. The Rambam is going to give a drasha. Then God says, if you remain indifferent to me, I'll remain indifferent to you. The Rambam is saying it's much more than that. Keri means by saying it's a natural occurrence. The sin will be by claiming that a tzara is a natural occurrence. No, the tzara is a hashgacha pratis for me. Kolemed that keshoavi aleichem tzara, I bring upon you a tzara kadesh yoshuvu. But im toimru that it's a keri, that it's a chance occurrence, it happened. Nikra, then oisim lochem chamas oisa keri. God will, so to say, act in a vengeful way because of our denial of hashgacha pratis. Halacha daled u'medivrei soifrim. Now, so what did we learn over here, guys? Does it say fasting? No, it doesn't say fasting. In fact, you can ask a kasha. All it says is cry out, and as we'll see in the Beis Hamikdash, you blow the chatzaitzris. Okay, what about fasting? And fasting is medivrei soifrim. And during the fast day, do you fulfill the biblical zoyakim b'tfilos u'mischanenin. And and you blow the trumpets. I take back everywhere you blow the trumpets. But then not only would they blow the trumpets, but they would also blow shofars. By Rosh Hashanah we learned that the chatzaitzes were mekatzer and the shofar was marech v'kutz mitzvah and the shofar. During a fast day, even though in the Beis Hamikdash you also did both, you did the opposite. Because here, because you know where this happens? Only lifnei hamelech Hashem, which means in the holy temple. Never is it Yom HaChayoim. Why is that? Because of the rule she'ein roiv hatzibur yichenu l'ama b'davar zeh, and the ein goyzer matchilat tainis ella, what we call behab, basheni, bashabas, ubachamishi shala achrav, basheni shala achrav. And if we have to continue, as we learned in Masechtas Tainis, as we learn over here, again, it's never Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's bahab, bahab, bahab. It's Monday, Thursday, Monday. I'll say there's a sheni v'chamishi v'sheni ad sheyiruchamu halacha vav ein goyzen Tainis alat zibur loy v'shabas is loy v'yamim toivim. Furthermore, v'chein ein toikin b'hem. Loy b'shofar, v'loy b'chatzotzos. But I'm sorry, and v'loy zoyakin u'mischalim and b'tfilo. Not the rabbinic fast, not the biblical. But the Rambam writes there's exceptions. Elam kain hoisa, either a ir shikifu goyim nahar. That means that there is an imminent possibility for a whole Jewish city to get wiped out, Rahman al-Islam. Or if you have a boat that's about to sink, Hamitorefas Bayam, then on Shabbos, you are Zoyakin Muschalim Batfil. Afilu Yochid, Hanir Mepnei Goyim, Mepnei Listim, or Mepnei Ruach Ra, someone is being chased by the demon. That means he has mental illness. Remember, mental illness is what we call mental illness. That's the Ruach HaYisrois. Misanin Aleim B'Shabbos. For I take back, not only then we fast, and V'zoyakin Mischanim Batfilos. Only one thing. The only thing we don't do on Shabbos is to blow the Chatzoritzros. Avalein Toikin, Elim Kain, Tokul Lekabetzu Am Leilach, La'azar Ism Latzilam. Blowing of the trumpets, it's only done for practical reasons. That means if physically you have to gather, Goyim are attacking. You need to have more soldiers. If the way to communicate today is a phone call, today is a WhatsApp, a text, was Chatzor, then do it. But as a means of calling out to God, even though in the exceptions you fast and cry out on Shabbos, you don't blow the trumpets. Halacha Zayin, Chein, Ein Goizim, Tainus, Batchila, on Rosh Chodesh, the first Monday. But on the other hand, they began a Bahab. And then you don't end it by the Bahab. We'll learn later. You go base, hey. But at some point, that base falls out on Rosh Chodesh. Or that hay falls out on Chanukah. Then you continue. If, again, these are fast days that were never, that's Omer Rabbanon, not pregnant woman, not halachically nursing woman, which means from a natural birth until 2 years. That's when a woman has a din of a minika, nor ketanim. Furthermore, it's not a 24, 25-hour fast. It's only a daytime fast, which means even though they're fasting the next day. Chutz from Tainus Hamatar, that at a certain point, it is going to be a 25-hour fast. What does that mean? You can eat and drink until Shial Amud HaShachar, provided you did not go to sleep. Guys, we're going to have this in Pei Gimel more pratim. Avalim Yoshin, Einu Chayziv Oichel. Pei Gimel more pratim. Halacha 9. Halacha 10. Says the Rambam, Kshem Shid Tzibur Misanam Al Tzarasam. So Atkan was the mitzvahs, asay midoy raisa, when there's a tzara, shaloi tovar al tzibur, midoy raisa yakir, to cry out and to blow the chatzotzos. And to make tshuva, darchei tshuva. Midrabanan, to make it into a fast day. But now, kacha yochid, misan al tzarasay ketzad, hareish hoya loy choyle, or he's toiba midbar, or he's asu bebeis asurim, or you have someone of your that's in your circle, yesh loyli sanas olav ulavakish nam b'tfilas, and to say aneinu b'chol tfilas shem espal, and the yachid also v'loy yisana b'shabbos v'liv b'ma'ados v'liv b'shchadosh v'liv b'chanukah v'purim. Halachiyu kol tainis shaloi kibla Allah hayachid m'boyim. If we have a tainis yachid is not a tainis only if prior to the fast, you will makabel it as a fast. What's maintenance? Normally, it means if it's a full day fast, Yakir, you're makabel it mincha the day before. We're going to learn later that it's shayach to begin a halachic kind of choice midday until the end of the day. If you are makabel it before noon, as we'll see, but we're speaking about a full daytime day fast. The Kabbalah is mincha day before. Shispal filas mincha. Oimer acharat fila ehei b'tainis. They're going to believe in the Samach. And here again, Lamachar, you can eat and drink. If a person lechatchila by mincha, day prior was mekabel to fast 3 days or 4 days, one after the other. A tainus tzibur is never decreed days after. Again, 3-4 days doesn't mean 72 hours. No, it means daytime. You did not ruin your fast by the fact that you ate in between. Furthermore, you don't have to state your intent every day mincha prior, because let's say today is Wednesday. If a person says today mincha, I'm going to fast Thursday and Friday. That's it. Then Friday's fast will count. He was makabel at Wednesday. Yeah, because he didn't say Wednesday only for Friday. He said Wednesday for Thursday and Friday. Halacha Yudal. He only had one day in mind. But then the night, at night, he decided, you know what, I'm going to fast again tomorrow. Even if he did not break his fast. Even if he did not break his fast, the next day doesn't count. Because there was no Kabbalah. That if after day one, he broke his fast at night, even though he had in mind to fast, the Hishkam Abayk, the name of Chlisana, She'ain Zul Tainis Kol. Locha Yud Beis. If a person sees a bad dream, you have to fast right away. Now, for this, guys, you're not going to have a Kabbalah Satainis. If a person had a bad dream, let's say Sunday night, you know when they fast Yakir? Monday, even though there's no Kabbalah. Why do they have to fast right away? Guys, if you know, we all know this. The effects of a dream go away very quick. Most people don't even remember the dream for a long amount of time. So you have to chaparayim. That's in Bebrachas, and it's separate. It's not a stira. Imagine. And the chiddush of a chaloi merah is that even though you were not makamal by yoin, fasting on Shabbos, says the Rambam. Yeah, by the way, that v'amasana b'Shabbos, fast on Shabbos, but then you did a sin. What was your sin? You didn't have oinik Shabbos. How do you get a tikkun for that? Fasting again. Masana b'Shabbos, masana yamachet, but it should be to oinik Shabbos. Now we're learning a new halach, something called taina sho'os. B'sana adam sho'os. A person may fast a several hour fast. For example, if a person, not because they were makabel tainis, not only were they not makabel tainis mincha day prior, Yakir, they b'chlal didn't even have a mind to fast. They were simply busy and they didn't eat until chatzos. But it doesn't have to be chatzos. It can be until the 9th hour of the day or whatever. In other words, it's already in the day and I didn't eat yet. Then he says, you know what? I'm not eating, might as well get a fast. The point is that this person is making a hachlot. If there would not be a concept of Taina Shois, then you can't do it. Now that they're saying there's a concept of Taina Shois, even though we learned that by a Tainas Yachid, there has to be a Kabbalah prior to the fast, fine. So my Kabbalah now is prior to the fast. Yachap. Because if I'm allowed to start the fast at 10 a.m. or at 9 a.m., my Kabbalah at 8 a.m. is a Kabbalah prior to the Taina Shois. Hareza Misana Oisam Shois, and it's a real fast. And you say, Amenu, Sharei Kibel, all of Atainas, Koidim Shois Atainas. The Rambam says that's not only because you didn't eat during the day. What happens if you did eat during the day? A guy wakes up, he has breakfast after Shachris. He had breakfast at 9 a.m. Then he says, you know what? He learned the Alter Rebbe Geras HaTshuva. He wants to do half fast days. This is not fasting until Chatzos. This is a concept of, okay, so I'll fast for the rest of the day. Since there is a concept of Taina Shois, my Kabbalah is prior to those hours. So I did it properly. And halacha yudal. Kol hasher b'tainis. If you are already in the middle of a fast, whether it's something private, whether it's a communal. So it's not just about fasting. It's not just about fasting. Don't indulge in pleasures. Don't act frivolously, however you'll interpret that. You should be doyeg v'oinein. Should be seriously concerned, as if you are in mourning. Over what should a person be concerned? Only a man should be concerned over his sins. When you're having a fast, can you taste food? Tasting means not to swallow. You want to taste, yeah, up until the revius. But not more. But the definition of tasting, of being toyim, is not nibbling, eating a little bit. No. It means, now, Shachach v'achal, another thing. If a person forgot his fast and he began to eat, don't say, I broke my fast. No, you have to be mashlam yatainis. You have to be mashlam yatainis. Halacha tezvav. Yochid shoy misanaf alochelav in esrape. What happens if the reason of your fast got resolved? Or outside va'avra? Still, harei ze mashlam tanisoi. We're not done yet. We're going to see soon how sometimes by rain, we don't do that. We say midday or not midday. Even though now you are in a place that people are not fasting for that same Sada, you began the fast at Ezam Salam Mashlim. But once you begin, you complete it. In the opposite, it's amazing. And I would add, based on the fact that there is halacha yud gimel, there's Masana Adam Sha'is. However, shachach v'achal v'shasa al yisra b'fneim, and furthermore, like we wrote on halacha yud dalid v'al yina giduna ba'atzmai halacha tezayin sibur shoyim esanim al geshamim. So in halacha tezvav, we're speaking about chaylev and esrape. The Rambam doesn't say that if you were in esrape before midday, the Rambam didn't say break your fast. The Rambam says you began the day, finish your day. There is an epidemic. Finish your day. But rain is different. If a tzibur is fasting for rain and there falls rain in the middle of the fasting. So here we say like this. Im koydem chatzois lo yashlimu. Dafka, don't finish your fast. Ella oichlim v'shoisin, and umiskansin, gather in the shul and you read Halil Hagadol is kapitel Kuf Lamed Vav. Right, the 26 kilo oilam chazdos. Now the Rambam is explaining like this. By rain, you have to say Halil Hagadol. To say Halal Agadol, you have to be satisfied. That's why you have to break your fast. That's explaining why the rain is different than a chayla than other tzadas. But all this is if it began to rain before midday. So listen to these concepts. Then yashlimu tanisan. For example, Al Shemad, the guy made a takana that you didn't have to become Christians, God forbid, as happened. And ubatal, and then they were ubatal that decree. Im koidem chatzois, wow, lo yashlimu. Now, does the Rambam write over here that they say halal agadol? He doesn't write it. Yeah, he's not writing it. Tema chatzois yashlimu. Final halacha of this chapter, halacha Yud Zayin, says the Rambam like this: B'chol yoim tanis. This is how the day is structured. It's like this. Based in Vahazakalim, Ayoish or Beisak Neses, and they make Uboitkin Almasei Anshe Hoir Ma'achat Vila Shachris until Chatzi Ayoim. You know, and what are they looking to do? Umasirin HaMichshoy Loy Shalaveris. They remove the stumbling blocks that lead to sin because people put the boundaries in the wrong place. One solution is put the boundary further away from the sin. It's pashut. It's going to prevent people from sinning, even though it's external. So what? And umazirin v'darshim, they give a warning and they acquire and they investigate all of the balei chanois, va'avedas. In other words, they go after the instigators who are enticing others to sin, and they remove. In other words, they spend some time. We're not saying that the one who made the bad choice, Yakir, is off the hook, but we're trying to understand how did it come to that, and any setting that can be changed, which won't even allow this mitzias to come to be lachatchila. Right? We separate the genders many times. Lachatchila, you prevent problems. Or if you have people that know how to coerce others, humble them. That's the first half of the day. It doesn't deal with the individual who sinned. It deals with certain systems that are in place, with settings. They change the settings for the better. Now, the other half of the day, the other half is divided into two halves. So 2 quarters. Like for the first quarter of the afternoon, and this is, as it says, Musar Hashem bini al timos. Don't despise Musar. Don't reject rebuke. It's beautiful. You know what's beautiful? That, you see, when you call a yachid and you give the yachid rebuke, you have to be a much greater tzaddik to be makabel. If you rebuke the public, people are more makabel. Because you're speaking to everyone. So you read in public the parts of the Torah that's the Eibusher giving us rebuke. That's for the first half of the afternoon. And for the final quarter of the day, or for the final half of the afternoon, or the Yom Achron, that's when you mispalel mincha. And now we're going back to the beginning of the chapter. All of the fast day is what? The fast day is midivrei soifrim, in which to be makayim the da'iraisa. What's the da'iraisa? To be zoyek. V'zoyakin u'misfadim kefi koichem, according to everyone's capability. My friends, to be